Hello everybody, in this video lecture we will cover anatomy of the ear, and I will use PowerPoint to help myself. So this is a PowerPoint that I will use. We already covered anatomy of the eye, so we have not that much left. So the ear is part of your special senses, and special senses means you have special organs to process this sensation. And general sensation is mostly touch, temperature. Like you don't have a special part of your body to feel temperature. You don't have special part of your body to feel touch, right? But there is only ear that allow you to hear sound, and it's only ear to allow you to, have a sense of your balance, right? And it's only eye for vision. So that's why eye and ear are part of special senses. So let's go ahead and begin. So let me pick up the pointer. So 3 parts of the ear. We have external or outer ear. So that's this part. Middle ear and internal ear. So external ear and middle ear involved with hearing, and internal ear involved with both hearing and equilibrium. So receptors for hearing and equilibrium and balance, they respond to a separate stimuli and activate it independently. Well, right, it does make sense. So you have your external and middle ear only for hearing, but in your internal ear, you have receptors for both, for sound and for equilibrium of your body. So you know where your head is located, you know when you rotate, you feel a rotation of your head. You also feel movement, forward, backwards, left, right. Right, so those are receptors for your balance and equilibrium, and they have different stimuli. Receptors for hearing have a different stimuli. So external ear is called pinna, and it's composed of the helix, the rim, and lobule. So that's a lobule. And we have external acoustic meatus or auditory canal. So this part over here shown in green, it's short, curved tube lined with skin-bearing hair, sebaceous gland, and ceruminous glands. Sebaceans are oil gland, ceruminous are wax, W-A-X, glands. So what separates outer or external ear from middle ear is tympanic membrane or tympanum or eardrum. So it's a boundary between external and middle ears. It's a connective tissue membrane that vibrates in response to sound and transfers sound energy to the bones of the middle ear. Right, so here we have a middle bones with the ossicles. Ossicles are small bones in the middle ear that vibrates when tympanic membrane vibrates. So for you to be able to hear, the sound waves enter your ear, external auditory canal, and then sound waves vibrate this tympanic membrane. And tympanic membrane vibrates these ossicles. And when those ossicles vibrate, they move some fluid inside your, several structures inside your middle ear. So it will be perilymph. So that will vibrate this perilymph, and vibration then will do some other stuff that I just cannot explain it right now. It's very complicated topic, but I will record video on the physiology of hearing, and we will discuss in details how the sound wave vibrates those perilymph, and at the end, the whole point is to create electrical impulse that will move from your internal ear through the nerve number 8, vestibular cochlear nerve, to your brain, and this electrical impulse will activate your brain cells, and you can hear sound, or you can have a sense of equilibrium, right? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna transfer sound energy into electrical energy of action potential. So middle ear, shown right here, it's a small air-filled mucosa-lined cavity in the temporal bone, and it's flanked laterally by eardrum. So this is the lateral side, and this is our tympanic membrane or eardrum. And so that's on the lateral. On the medial side, we have a bony wall, and this bony wall has 2 windows, and it's called oval window. So this look like oval, so that's the oval window, and inferior to it, this part over here, round window. Also, we have this auditory tube. It's called pharyngotympanic, or just easy auditory. So auditory tube connects the middle ear with nasopharynx, so pretty much with your throat. This is part of your throat, posterior to your nose. That's what, posterior to a nasal cavity. Nasopharynx is your throat, but it's posterior to nasal cavity. So it's connect your middle ear to your nasopharynx, and what it does, it equalizes pressure in the middle ear and external air pressure, because your nasal cavity, your oral cavity, they are open body cavities. So the pressure inside your nose, inside your mouth, is the same as external air pressure, right? So, and you want this connection, so it would be the same pressure here, so you would not, you know, damage this membrane, right? This tympanic membrane. So this is the same picture, only with the labels. So we have tympanic membrane, that's the middle ear, and I already told you this is oval window, this is round window. Those are auditory ossicles. This is malleus, incus, and stapes. And this is our auditory tube or auditory canal. Now, ear ossicles are 3 small bones in tympanic cavity, malleus, incus, and stapes. They are suspended by ligaments and joined by synovial joints, so they can move. And they transmit vibratory motion of the eardrum to the oval window. Now, this picture here, we are looking from inside out. So you can see that's a tympanic membrane, and the bone that attached to the membrane is a malleus, then incus, and then stapes. And here are some muscles, right? Stapedius is the smallest muscle in your body, tensor tympani muscle, and here are several ligaments that hold all these ossicles in place. So when we have vibration of this tympanic membrane, it's gonna vibrate those ossicles. Now, inner ear has lots of structure with very, very weird names. But this is what we need to understand. Internal ear has bony structure. It's called bony labyrinth. Inside this bony structure, we have membranous structure. So it's called membranous labyrinth. And inside the membranic structure, we have sensory structure. So bony structure, inside the bony structure is membranous structure. Inside this membranous structure, we have sensory structure that can sense sound or, you know, movement. Okay, so when we're talking about bony structure, those are channels in the temporal bone, and there are 3 parts: vestibule, semicircular canals, and cochlea. And they filled with fluid called perilymph. Inside vestibule, semicircular canals, and cochlea, we have membranous structure, membranous labyrinth. And those membranous structure also has fluid inside. It's called endolymph, and it's rich with potassium. Right, so those are a series of membrane sacs within this bony labyrinth. So now we're talking about the membranous structure. So let me get to a picture. So here, the shown in brown, that's a bony labyrinth. So that's a bony structure. What's shown in blue is the membranous tubes, really like different tubes, and the parts have different names. And what's shown in purple, those are sensory structures. All right, so here's our oval window. So vibration of the sound wave coming from here, right? So we have tympanic membrane first, then it vibrates the ossicles, and this is the stapes, and stapes vibrate this oval window. Now, this bony structure here is called vestibule. Inside the bony vestibule, we have two membranous structure with very weird name. Are you ready? It's called utricle and saccule. So utricle and saccule are membranous structure. Inside we have endolymph. In a utricle and saccule, we have sensory structure called maculae, right here. Maculae is plural. So one macula, another macula. And vestibule is not involved in hearing. It's involved in a static equilibrium. So this maculae allow you to feel movement when you move forward, when we move backwards, when you move up, when you move down, right? That's what kind of sensation this utricle and saccule, and specifically the sensory structure is maculae, right? Maculae allow you to feel this type of linear movement, right? So that's a vestibule. So now let's go ahead and see what we have. So vestibule is a central egg-shaped cavity of the bony labyrinth. It contains two membranous sacs, saccule and utricle. So saccule continues with cochlea duct, and utricle continues with semicircular canals. I forgot to show it to you, but I will in a second. And these sacs, saccule and utricle, they house the sensory part, and it's equilibrium receptors called maculae, and they respond to gravity. So that's how you know you're moving up and down, but we call it like linear motion. When you move forward and backwards, that's also a function of your vestibule. Position of the head, well, if you close your eyes and somebody picks you up, your head down, right? You know your head is down, right? Because you can feel this gravity. Now let's see how saccule continues with cochlea and utricle continues with semicircular canals. So you see this is the utricle, and those are semicircular canals. So utricle continues with semicircular canals, and saccule continues with the cochlea duct, right there. Now semicircular canals are also involved in equilibrium and motion, not in hearing. You have three canals, anterior, posterior, and lateral. Each define 2/3 of a circle. Now, semicircular canals are bony structure. Inside this bony structure, we have membranous structure called semicircular ducts, each one inside each canal. And they communicate with utricle. Now, inside these membranous semicircular ducts, we have sensory structure now, right? And this sensory structure called crista. So first is ampulla, and inside the ampulla, we have crista ampullaris that have these receptors for equilibrium and movement. And semicircular canals and crista ampullaris, they respond to rotational movement. This is where you move your head, or when you like turning around, right? Rotational movement. So again, this is the vestibule. Inside the vestibule, utricle and saccule. And those are semicircular canals. Inside, we have this blue part, semicircular ducts, right? We have anterior, we have posterior, and we have lateral. And this like this structure over here, it's called ampulla. So it's, you see, it's wider than the rest of the duct. And inside this purple structure is sensory structure that's called crista. So cristae, we have 3 cristae in 3 canals. Right, and also you see this yellow parts, those are nerve fibers. So those are axons of sensory neurons. So they receive information from this sensory, let's say cristae or macula, and they send the sensory information to your brain. The last part over here is cochlea. Now, cochlea involved in hearing. Cochlea is spiral, conical, bony chamber, right? So cochlea is a bony chamber. So it's shown right here. And it extends from the vestibule and it coils around a bony, that's like a column, pillar, it's a column, called modiolus. And inside the cochlea, we have cochlea duct. So that's our membranous structure. And inside this membranous structure, we have sensory structure that's called organ of Corti. I told you lots of parts and they all have weird name. So over here, you see that cochlea, that's a bony structure. Inside, we have membranous structure. Actually, we have 3 membranous ducts, right? One on the top, one in the middle, and one on the bottom, right? Now, if you open it up, you see that, so this is like a water slide. So imagine you get all the way on the top, and you sit down on a top tube, and you just kind of like, you're kind of like, ooh, sliding down right there, right? So it's like a water slide. And then your friend sitting in the middle tube. So a middle tube also like going. And then somebody sits in a bottom tube and also slides down, right? But it's, this cochlea makes those loops around bony structure called modiolus. So that's a modiolus and that's cochlea, those are bones. Inside we have membranous structure. In this membranous structure, this upper tube, middle tube, and bottom tube, they have different names. The one on the top is called scala vestibuli. The one in the middle, scala media, and on the bottom, scala tympani. Okay. So cochlea, the cavity of cochlea is divided into 3 chambers. Scala vestibuli, that's the one on the top, the tube on the top. It's called vestibular canal. And this one contains perilymph. And this one starts at the oval window. Then in the middle, we have scala media or cochlear canal. This one contains endolymph. And on the bottom, we have scala tympani or tympanic canal, and it terminates at a round window and it contains perilymph. So the scala tympani and vestibuli are continuous with each other at the helica trima, that is the apex. I don't know if I can, let me get a pen very quickly. Right, and I'm not, of course, the best artist, but imagine, I hope you will see it, right? So imagine this is a tube, right? Like this. Now think if you're gonna bend this tube. So now you're gonna do it like that, right? So here's your tube. Now only bend it. Make sense? Here's the tube. Now this opening here is called oval window, right? So this is what? Oval window. Oval window. Now this opening over here is called round window. Round window. Here's our oval window, and this is the round window. Right, so now this tube over here is called vestibular canal, right? If you don't remember the scala vestibuli, but that's a vestibular canal. Over here, this tube called tympanic canal or scala tympani. And what it says here, they continues with one another. So this part, you see how they connected. So this is called helicotrema or apex. But we need one more, right? We need our Cochlea canal. Let's see if I can pick up a different color. Okay, ink color. So let me get a blue one now. Now what we're gonna have inside, right here, we're gonna have another tube, right? And this one is the Cochlea canal. So that's or scala media. And then we have the modiolus, right? So here's the modiolus, that's the bony part. And again, let me pick up now red color. Took me forever to pick up these different colors. And we will have all these three tubes kind of, right, going this way. So now this way, right? So they're going around this modiolus. That's the structure of the cochlea. So now let me get my pointer. So here you can see all the three tubes, right? Scala vestibuli or vestibular canal, scala tympani or tympanic canal, and scala media, right in the middle. So over here, that's our cochlea canal, and we have cochlea duct. Now inside this scala media, we have now sensory organ. Because remember, we have bony structure, that's a cochlea. We have membranous structure, that is these three canals. And then we have sensory structure, and sensory structure called organ of Corti. Okay, so let's look at the next picture first. So here are our scala vestibuli. This is scala tympani. They both have perilymph. This is our scala media or cochlea duct, and it contains endolymph. Now the floor of this cochlea duct is a basilar membrane. So that's a basilar membrane. Now this structure here is sensory organ. This is the one that allow you to hear me. It's called organ of Corti. Now they call it spiral organ. Now on the top of this organ, there is another membrane. It's called Tectorial membrane. So here's a Tectorial membrane and basilar membrane. Basilar on a base. Basilar membrane and Tectorial membrane. And between we have this organ of Corti. Now, organ of Corti, those are special cells. They are receptors for hearing, and they synapse with these axons of sensory nerve fibers. So those axons of sensory nerve fibers, they form a nerve, right? This will be cochlear nerve. And then it will kind of come together with vestibular nerve, forming cranial nerve number 8 that is called vestibular cochlear nerve. Right, but that will be a nerve. So electrical impulse gonna move through this nerve to your brain. and we will discuss the process in our physiology lecture. This is just really anatomy only. Now we can look at this organ of Corti. So here's our basilar membrane, and we have lots of supporting cells, but here's our receptors, sensory receptors. They are called hair cells because they do have this hair on a apical surface. So we have inner hair cells, 1 row, and outer hair cells, 3 rows of cells. And the hair are connected to this tectorial membrane. Now, as I said, we're gonna cover physiology later, but when you have a sound wave coming, right, it's gonna vibrate all these tympanic membranes and your ossicles, and then it's gonna vibrate the perilymph in a scala vestibular in a top tube, right? And then kind of like the sound will move down to the scala tympani, and the sound waves will vibrate these basilar membranes. So this membrane will go up and down, up and down, up and down. And every time when it goes up, this hair, they will move, they will bend, right, against this tectorial membrane. And when those hair moves, again, we open or close some channels here, and we allow ions to move in and out. So when ions, and they are charged particles, moves, that's what we call electrical current. So we will create electrical current, and this electrical impulse will move through that we call action potential, will move through the nerve to your brain. And when this electrical impulse, electrical current reaches your brain, it excites your brain cells, and you can feel the sound, because cochlea is for hearing. Okay, so that was our last slide. Don't forget to watch a video on the anatomy of the eye. Thank you for watching, and I hope it was helpful.